Hey guys, welcome back. In this session, we will see how to find the last row or last column. When I say last row, last column, I mean the last used row and the last used column. In the previous session, we learned about loops and we were running a loop from 1 to 10. But in more real-time scenarios, we will probably want to run a loop through all the rows or maybe all the columns. So it becomes important to identify the last row and last column. In this video, we'll see a shortcut on how to reach the last row and last column, and we will see how do we implement that shortcut in VBA to reach the last row and last column. So let's jump into the demo. In your Excel sheet, let's assume we have data in multiple rows. Now to reach to the last row, what you can do is press Control and down arrow. Control and down arrow will take you to the last row. Similarly, Control and up will take you to the first row. So this is a simple shortcut which you can use in VBA also to reach the last row. Similarly, if you look into columns, what you can do is press Control right to reach the last column, Control left to reach to the first column. Now let's see how do we implement these simple shortcuts in VBA. Let's create a subroutine. Let's create a variable. Now we want to reference this cell number. So we'll say worksheets, sheet 1 dot cells. I want to start from cell 1 and go to last cell. So I will say 1 comma 1, which means the first cell. I want to go to the end of it. And the way I want to go to the end is control down. So I'll say Excel down. And when I've reached the last cell, I want the row number of it. So I'll say row. Now my variable last will contain the row number of the last cell. Let's use a message box to print the value of it and see if it is coming correctly. If you look into the data here, ideal value is 7 for this code to return. Let's run the code and we get 7. So this is how we go to the last row and print the value of it. Let's also look into last column. So to find the last column, instead of going to Excel down, what we can do is Excel to right. So I want to go to the end by moving to the right, and what I want is the column number. So now this will start from cell 1 and go to right and give me the column number. If you look at the data, the column number we are expecting is 7. Let's run the code and it is 7. So this is how we go to Excel end row or Excel end column. Let's also look into one more scenario where assume data in row 4 is not there. So if I start from first row, Excel down will give me row 3. However, the last used cell is X row 7. So the best approach to find the last row or last column is to start from the bottom instead of starting from the first. So instead of starting from cell 1 comma 1, we will start from the end of the row, the maximum limit of the row of column 1, and then try to find the end row. Let's see how we can achieve it. So in this code, if I run this now, if you'll notice, if I do the Excel down and print the row number, you will notice I'm getting 3, but the expected output is 7. So what I'll do is instead of starting from 1, I'll say worksheets dot rows dot count. So now this will return me the total number of count of rows in this worksheet. And when I go to Excel up, which is nothing but control up, it will come from the end. So if you notice, this is the end row of the Excel. If I press control up, I'll come to row 7 now. That's what is the expected behavior. Let's run this code and see if we get 7 or not. That's right. So instead of starting from row 1, we are starting from the end of the row and then using Excel up to come back to see the last used row. Similarly, to find the last column, let's use something similar to this. I want to say first row, but column I want to start from the end. So I'll say column dot count, and instead of Excel up, I'll say Excel to left and column name. This one should also return me 7. 7. So that's how we find the end row and end column in an Excel. The recommended approach would be to go to the bottom and then come up using Excel up or Excel to left to find the last used row and last used column.